Hello and welcome once again to 177 Nations of Tasmania podcast. In the last 10 to 15 years, the Bhutanese community has grown to be Tasmania's largest refugee group and one of the larger communities in the general migrant population of Tasmania. The average Tasmanian, however, still knows relatively little about Bhutan or why we have so many Bhutanese settling here. My guest for this episode is Khadga, born in Bhutan, but like many Bhutanese in Tasmania, of Nepali ethnicity. His personal story reflects the experience of many Bhutanese refugees, forced out by threats of violence from the Bhutanese government for not being the right ethnicity or religion, and forced to live in a refugee camp in Nepal for almost 2 decades before his family was accepted for settlement in Australia. Although Khadga came with some English and education, much of his family did not, and as for many Bhutanese, there were significant barriers to adapting to a new society where things were done very differently. During his almost 15 years here, Khadga has become qualified as a nurse and works in aged care. He's also a partner in a business now, providing disability support services.
Actually, I'm born in Bhutan. So Bhutan is a small country between India and China. So it's a really small. It's smaller than Tasmania, but it's a Buddhist country, and I was born in Bhutan. But my father's were migrated to Bhutan from Nepal. That was a long time ago as a labor. And because of the hard works, the government of Bhutan really liked those peoples and granted a visa and citizenship, and they lived for hundreds of years. And when the populations was really growing, and the Bhutan government changed the policy to cleanse the ethnicity, and my families were kicked from the country when I was around 10 years old. So I left my country when I was 10 years old.
And how much do you remember about your childhood in Bhutan?
I still have some memories when I was a child. So because my family is from agricultural background, so they used to do big farms, cattle, looking after cattle, playing, running up in the hills, fetching the water. We didn't have a water system at home. We have to walk a long distance to bring the water in a pot. I still remember those kinds of activities that I did when I was a small child. Because Bhutan, as I said, Bhutan is a Buddhist country. So our fathers we went to Bhutan. So we are from Hindu backgrounds, and the Bhutan government loved the hard work, and they was very happy and was given a citizenship land, and we lived there for hundreds of years. As the Hindu population was growing, as it was growing quite fast, and they started holding a different position in the governments and in the House of Assembly. And then when Nepal had a democracy, India had a democracy, and the Bhutan government said, these peoples are originally from Nepal, they have some kind of relationship with the Nepal. Now Nepal got democracy, probably they will want the same thing here in Bhutan. And Bhutan government became pretty smart, and then they did a census and then categorized the same family in the different groups. And those we are from Nepal origin were kicked from the country. So we went to Nepal via India, and we lived in the camp for 19 years as a refugee before coming to Australia.
And when you say you had to leave, if my understanding is correct, many people were forced to leave by violence. Is that right?
That's correct. So we were forced to leave the country. We were asked to sign a piece of paper with the guns, showing the guns that I say, I'm leaving my country as a voluntary, but that's not a voluntary. That was the force behind, and was armies was implemented to kick these people out from the country.
It was signing something at gunpoint.
Yep,
basically.
That's true. Yeah, signing something at the gunpoint.
And so if you didn't sign it, what would happen?
Yes, that's a really good question, Mark. A good example, my eldest brother, he was arrested and in the prison for 13 months, and he got a very capital punishment when he was in the prison, and then we didn't hope that he was coming back because there were so many allegations made to him, and but some luckily he came, and then we were asked to sign that paper to leave the country, or they're going to put the same other family members into the prison. So there was no choice. There was two only options: either in the prison or to leave the country. And majority of the neighbors from my village left the country. The place where I was born is quite remote. Okay, we didn't have the transportation system. We had to walk 3 days to get into the borders, and then we took the truck and we were loaded at the back of a truck, and then we went and lived in Nepal for 3 nights, and then we had to book another truck to go to Nepal, which was 1 day trip.
So it's quite a long.
It's a long journey. It's a long journey.
And you have to travel through India as well, don't you?
Yeah, India, sitting on the back of the truck.
Do you remember that well?
Yeah, I remember. Okay, it was a very hot day. Okay, and we have full truck, a lot of people sitting on the back of the truck, including small children to elderly people, and traveling through India. And I think that was my second time journey in a truck. I mean, in a vehicle.
So before that, you never really left your. Were you in a village?
Yeah, we're in the village, and we didn't have this kind. So wherever you go, transportation was on foot, walking. So you have to walk 1 day, 2 days to get into to supermarkets. We didn't call that a supermarket; it was a bazaar, like a small town. Okay, have to walk to get anything like basic needs, and then have to buy back to home. So I did a couple of trips with my family members because there was only the option, because we didn't have a childcare system, and the family didn't have an option to leave the child and has to take the child with them if they're traveling to somewhere else to bring some things. All this child go with them. So that was one opportunity that I had a chance to travel with my mom to that small town.
And did you go to school in the village?
I was just started schooling, so I think only 1 year, because they was a little bit different, and then the school had to leave the country, so I didn't have opportunity to continue my study.
And so then what was the life like in the refugee camp in Nepal?
It's very hard to describe. Life in the refugee camp is a very miserable life, because you live in the refugee camp with the basic needs like food, clothes, and shelters. And the shelter was made of bamboo, okay, with a plastic roof, small. I have to live all family in a small, so probably the 2 size of the normal bedrooms here. That's gonna be the total size of the hut. We call hut, which is made of bamboo and plastic, and all the family members used to have to live in that hut.
How many people were in your family?
My family is quite a big family, so I think we're 7 at 1.9. And the other brothers, you got to say, different hut, and he moved out. So usually 5 to 7 people living in this small hut.
So it was almost like just one room.
Pretty much, if I compare the 2-bedroom size of normal bedroom here in Australia, gonna be one hut. So that's the total space. You have to make a kitchen, to put a bed, everything's there, and we have to got communal toilet outside. We have to share with other family members living in that area.
Did you go to school within the camp?
Yeah. That was the best thing was to go to school. After waiting for 1.5 to 2 years, then I got admissions in the school in the refugee camp. So again, I started my education from year 1. Okay, I just studied in the refugee camp up to year 10. And I finished my year 10, and after year 10, I did 11 and 12 outside the camp, because there was an opportunity, and though leaving the camp, go to the campus outside the camp, come back home in the camp and leave. So I finished my 11 and 12 from outside camp, and then I continued my study. I did my bachelor's degree and then I moved to Kathmandu, and then I did my study in Kathmandu.
When you were at school in the refugee camp, what did you think the future held? Did you have any dream or idea?
always, when you go to schools and your teachers always tell you, okay, you study hard, you got to make your futures, you have to make your bright futures there. But our futures, we didn't know what was the bright futures and what was the dark side, because there was no any opportunities in the camps. You have to live with the basic things that provided by the UNHCR, and that is I didn't know, but we had a hope that we could go back to Bhutan, because there was always a bilateral talks between the Bhutan governments and Nepal governments, and we used to listen to this news. Okay, there is another bilateral talks held going to happen in next month. Probably that's going to come with the good news. We always were hopeful, but I think there was 17, 18 bilateral talks held between Bhutan governments and Nepal governments, and there was no any green signals that we could go back to Bhutan. And then our case was internationalized. So the core countries like Australia, US, New Zealand, Denmark, UK, Norway, they put their hands to take those refugees from the camp as a permanent solution. And then we put our hands to come to Australia.
And so you said you went to university in Kathmandu. So was there a possibility for people in the refugee camp to do work and study outside the camp?
Legally, that was not allowed.
Okay.
Because when you live in the refugee camp, you have to be in the camp. But we are from Nepali origins, and we speak the same language, same culture, we share so many common values between the Nepalese people. So somehow we could go and study in Kathmandu. But while I was studying in Kathmandu, I was working in a school as a teacher.
And how were you able to get that?
Once we get that connection, because the education system in the refugee camp was really, really high standards, high values. So it was all done in the English medium. So and math, science, English, the way we has studied in the camps were really respected outside the camp to teach in the school. I had opportunity to study and work in Kathmandu. So I was teaching in one of the boarding school, and then doing part-time study in the college, in the university.
And so what did you study?
I studied microbiology.
Okay.
I had some really big interest to do either in microbiology or in medical field, related medical field. And there is no way I could get into others medical field because it was very, very expensive and very tough completions. And then I got into the microbiology, and I was studying microbiology.
And you completed that
No,
degree?
I didn't finish my third year. And because there's so many reasons I couldn't complete, and because one was constantly I was trying to come to Australia, and it took me nearly 2 years for my applications to get through, and I used to travel in and out of Kathmandu every month with my applications process to come to Australia.
So at what point did you decide that you needed to leave and come to Australia?
When there was no hope that we could go back, because we have seen that clearly the multiple bilateral talks held between Bhutan governments and Nepal governments didn't show any possibility that the Bhutan government was accepting us back to Bhutan, and then living in the refugee camp for 19 years, there's no future. So, and then we made a decision to move to outside Nepal, thinking that at least we could have a better future for our coming generation. That was the main reason family and majority of the people living in the camp choose that to settle in outside, was looking for a better future for their children. It's not for them, but the coming generation. That was the main reason they choose to come to a country where there's a little different, no similarities in language, not similarity in cultures, not similarity in food. So moving a totally different country, thinking that at least they can the upcoming generation going to have a better future.
And so was there a possibility to stay in Nepal, or is that too difficult?
Was it too difficult to live in Nepal outside the camp, because the Nepal governments didn't accept that once, because they already have a lot of problems looking after their own people, providing that opportunity, because Nepal doesn't have a big opportunities like other country, and living in the camp was still options. But we lived in the camp for 19 years, and we knew that what gonna be the life living in the camp if we choose to live for longer. As you said, I was living in Kathmandu and teaching in a boarding school. I had that opportunity to have a little bit to get connected with all those organized stakeholders. And then when these countries has announced that they're going to take refugee, then we started looking into, and then I was trying to map which country gonna be suitable for my family. As I said, my family is from non-speaking background. Majority of my community family members are non-speaking English, they don't speak English, okay? And we're from agricultural backgrounds. And then when I was doing comparisons and doing a little research, I found Australia and again Tasmania, because similar demography, population, climates was pretty much matching to Bhutan's, not same, to some degree was matching. And I said, okay, if we choose to Australia, particularly Tasmania, then it would be not too difficult. I know it's going to be difficult, not too much difficult to settle. That's why we chose to Australia and came to Tasmania in 2000. And I was the first from my family to come to Tasmania. I came with my mom and dad and my wife. My wife was 26 weeks pregnant, so we had a first baby after pretty much 3.5 months. We arrived here.
Oh wow, that would have been an interesting challenge of all the other things you have to adapt to, as well as the.
Yeah, it was whatever the cycle of the phases of the life I have passed, has every phase has got a very unique and good memory. Okay, as it's living in a country when I was 11, so that's going to be a long memory. Okay, they still remember that far. Then living the refugee camp was another chapters that we created, adapting to live in the camp, adapting with the other outside community, and then moving to Australia, having a first baby after 4 months, and my parents, they don't speak English, and had to adjust with the Australian community, with explore the service, health system was totally different, lots of appointments, everything's done in paperwork here, keeping track of those things was really, really challenging at the beginning.
But it sounds like you had done a bit of research before you came and knew a little bit about Tasmania already?
When I did a research, I was pretty much looking into climate, topography, demography. I didn't do research what sort of people lived here, what sort of health system had here, what are the opportunity here, because I didn't have that access to do the research. Okay, mainly was no internet, so not easy access internet there. I didn't have that opportunity or options to go and do a research on internet, find out all these ones. I didn't know anyone's living here that I could pick the phone and ring. Again, to pick the phone and ringing was very expensive during the time. So, but when I did research, okay, Tasmania is small, it's a bit cold, it's a more hillsides. You can have to drive up and downs. It's not densely populated like Sydney, Melbourne, so it's more like a countryside. And I said, okay, I think that's gonna be the more appropriate place for us to start our new life, and that's how we chose.
When you first was trying to settle in here, what would you say was the thing that surprised you or shocked you the most?
Everything was a very surprise to me. Okay, everything pretty much. And see a number of the vehicles on the roads. Every family had 2-3 vehicles. House, when you look house from outside, it looks very small. But once you walked in, is pretty much well designed, well maintained. And then healthcare systems, the people, how friendly the people are, how supportive the people are. Everything was a bonus to us.
And what would you say, what was the thing that was most difficult to adapt to?
Culture, okay. Because as I said, I came here with my parents, my dad and mom, and both they don't speak English, even they don't speak English now, okay. And when I was moving to a country with my parents, who don't speak English at all, who don't understand, and who wants to keep the cultures alive, and moving to another country where our population is a very small amount, and living was very hard, challenging, and keeping with the time, appointments, making an appointment, everything had need to be to see about doctors, or even to see someone, you have to make an appointment, but back we don't have to do that one. Whenever you feel, just walk in. Maybe you have to wait for the in a queue, But here it was everything's is a pre-booked appointment. And then when you go for supermarkets, so it's totally different. So you need to see which aisles, which food items you find. So you have to pick them, then go to the counters, and then the clear, have to pay. But that was not like that. Still, my parents lives with me. My dad is 96. Okay.
Wow.
You can see him in the. No, he's 96. He's pretty healthy. My mom, she lives with me. She's just gone to Brisbane. She's coming back on Friday, and there are other elderly people in the community. And sometime I try to put myself in their shoes and see what the life's gonna be there. It's always hard. They don't have English, and they can't go where they want. They have to always rely on someone to take them. And some family members are really supportive, but every family members are not supportive. So some of these people are having quite a challenging and quite a difficult here. They don't have a very supportive family member.
Yeah, and you mentioned the cultural differences, and I think one of them is the attitude to family and elderly people. Here we don't maybe look after elderly people are more likely to be independent, expected to be independent here. And the Bhutanese culture, that's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite different. Yes, that's why I try to do community events either every year or in 2 years' time to give them still to minimize the cultural barriers. Because they feel that they are isolated, they don't have access. We try to do those kind of events, and then we provide that opportunity for them. Okay, yeah, still we're living here, we can keep our cultures alive, we can keep our costumes alive, we can keep our cultural food alive. So we cook a cultural food, we share cultural values, we do some group activities that promotes our cultures. That's what we've been doing. And Australia has been a very great country where we can have our own culture, we can celebrate, we can preserve our own cultures. There's no any barriers or no any restriction on that one. So we are free to celebrate too. And that's the best things in Australia that I feel. As soon as I arrived here, and after 1 or 2 months, then I realized that I need to do more study, need to get more skills, I need to get more trainings to be able to find a job. That's I could quickly identify that that's what needed, and then I started doing childcare course because when we arrived here, after certain weeks of arrival here, we were connected to the job networks, and a caseworker from job networks was assist us finding a job, building the skills. And I said, she asked me what you were doing back in camp, and I said I was a teacher. And then said, oh, okay, if you're a teacher, probably the childcare is going to be your right field. And she joined me in a childcare course. And now when I started doing it, I was very excited at the beginning. Okay, I thought that I was going to start teaching in schools, similar things like that. When I started doing course and looking after small infant children, changing the nappies, feeding them, cuddling them, holding, and I said, oh, this is not the area that I want to be, and this is not what I was doing back in camp. And I said, oh, this is not the right area. Then I switched to aged care course. I started doing aged care course when I had the first interview. We didn't have aged care back in camp or in Nepal, and I said to the assessors, okay, I'm here under my humanitarian visa, I want to do this course, I want to be able to find a job, but I don't know what the aged care looks like, what's their expectations, but I'm very happy to learn. And I joined aged care course, and then when I went for the training for placements, we used to do the placements between middle of the course and end of the course, 2 weeks in the middle of the course and 2 weeks at the end of the course. That's how the course was designed. When I went to the placements, and I again said, I may do this for a short period of time, but this is not going to be my long-term careers, okay? Yep. Then I started talking to my associates. I'm enjoying. I still like these ones, but I want to do a little bit different than these ones. And they said, probably do a nursing degree. And then I said, okay, nursing. And I said, nursing back in my cultures back in my community was only female dominant area. And I said, I think if I'm not wrong, I think this is only for female and ladies. And she said, no, in Western countries, now there is more demand of a male nurses and you would be a really good nurse. And then I said, okay, then I'll give a try. I tried that one. I got an application, put in applications, got into the uni. I did a nursing degree during that time. I was doing 2 degrees at the same time, one as a nursing degree, one as a language. Because everything was English, everything's even 99% of in my tutorial groups were all English speaking, and I was only the migrants, and that was just been here less than 1 year. But I had a good team support. I did really hard works. I got through the nursing degree, and then again I said I want to do a little bit different. I didn't know that that's not still. I did my paramedics. And then halfway through my paramedics, and then I applied for my registration for nursing. I got registrations, and I said, okay, I will hold the paramedics degree. I didn't complete. I went and started working as a nurse. So that was 2015, and since then I'm working as a nurse.
And what was the first job that you did?
The first job I did here was interpreting in a school for the new enrollments from my community, because there was so many people so coming at times, and the school needs a interpreter from that community to help them enrolling in the schools, in the colleges. I did a couple of interpreting job, and I said, and then I went and did some farm work as a casual farm worker, where I identified the job opportunity and I linked my community, those who fit that area, explore them. They still doing that sort of works. And then I was doing my nursing degree, and I worked as a carer in a nursing home. I've been still in the same job. I've been changed my nursing job in the same organization, okay, where I started from 2015. I still working there as a part-time, and that's in a nursing home. That's a Glenview nursing home. I'm still doing every weekend shift there. But during that time, I learned so much about working in the community, helping the needy people community, and I feel that there's a big gap in migrant community, especially in the community sectors. And then I knew that was a big gap. So we registered a business called NDIS Service Provider. And up and now the organization is fully registered and up and running from 2022. I'm one of the owner of that organization. Me and my business partners, my business partners in Launceston. I'm based in Hobart. So we've been operating this business and employing around 35 people as a casual basis. Okay, and we're supporting the migrant communities and finding a job, as well as we're supporting the state governments with the tax and economic growth.
So perhaps you can explain a bit more about what the business does.
The business we are the service provider. Our business is called Innovative Care Tasmania Private Limited, and it is an NDIS registered service provider. We provide support to the NDIS participants, delivering personal care, community access, meal preparation, transportation, socializations. We do quite a lot of activities. We go to their house and we do assist them what their needs are. If they need support in personal care, we send our support workers to help with the personal care. If they need support with the transportations, we provide a support care to pick them home, take them to the shopping, take them to doctor's appointments. If they want to go for recreational activities, whatever, and take them back home. Or if they need an appointment, we help them booking an appointment, taking to the appointments. If they need help with the shopping, so we provide all this kind of support to the people who have NDIS access.
What sort of cultural activities have you been involved with in the Bhutanese community?
Last year, I did a big event in my house. We had around 150 to 100 people every day for 7 days. And that's from not from only my community, from Nepalese community, from Lancastons, like even from we had the family members coming from Bhutan. We have a family members coming from America, South Australia. Yeah, that's give another positive vibes in my family and in my community. That is still they are part of. It's still our culture is still alive, and they can take part in that one.
You mentioned that you had one child born in Tasmania when you came. Do you have other children who were born in Tasmania?
Yeah, I do have. We've got 2 boys. So first one was born in 2010, and the second one born in 2014, right after when I finished my nursing degree. And we have a second child.
So they're still quite young then?
10 and 14, they're young.
How much of the Bhutanese culture do they take on, and how Australian are they as well?
That's a really great question. That's very challenging to balance the 2 cultures, okay? Because they're born here, they got a friend, they got all the friends from school, from Australian communities, and they learn different cultures, different from the schools, from their friends, and they have to adopt another totally different cultures at home. Always going to be challenging to them as well, and as well as challenging to a parent, or to balance both.
How do you try to balance it, or are you still working?
We still speak the same language, our own language at homes. Because my parents, we try to language, and when we have the cultural festivals, events, we try to take part. Them to take part, and we take them and show them. And usually, my parents, the good thing is my parents lives, and they do a lot of these cultural events in the morning. They're prayers and all the events, so they getting to observe that ones, and they now start asking question, why you doing this, why not this, we learn this in the schools, why can't we do at home? They ask that question. I say, okay, then that's Australian cultures. This is our cultures. We need to take on both, so we can't leave only one and take another one. So we need to go together. So when you grow later on, and you will have choice to choose one, but at this point, so you need to take on both. So that's why we need to give a lot of education to them, a lot of showing, teaching to them.
What are some of the main challenges or main issues that the Bhutanese have to deal with in Tasmania?
Finding a job, as I always said, majority of the community members are 40 and above. Okay, they don't have good English. They've learned English to some level now, to some extent now, but their English is not as good as they get to get a job, indoor job, and they have to work in the farm. Working in the farm in Tasmania and weather like this is always a challenging to them. That's a big challenge. Okay. The another ones lately, there's quite a lot of attracts to the migrant communities in the local areas. Like a couple of times that one of the Nepalese grocery shop was attracted by a group of young people.
Yep.
Yes, I think the migrant community started feeling they're not safe. We need to Tasmanian governments and the other department has to take this seriously and look into and provide safety to the migrant communities. So they need to feel they are safe to live in the community, safe to work, safe to travel, safe to go out. That's why that's only then we can grow the economy of the country. We can foster the diversity in the community. Otherwise, some of the communities always gonna be disadvantages from this this kind of
feel
activity.
Feel like outsiders and not integrated and contributing to the community as well. It's important. And I guess one of the problems is it's very difficult for older people, I imagine, learning language and things like that.
And it's always, as I said, there is a challenge to them, and when they don't have English, when they don't have a place where they go and meet everyone, do like a group activities. I know some organizations they do like MRC, other organizations do, but that's also they have to go there when they have the programs. Okay, but when I say if they don't have a community centers or anything where they feel they can go there, do some talking, reading, sharing their stories, at least they need, like I've seen quite a lot of migrant communities, like from Greeks, from Italy. They have their own community centers, and so those age group people, they meet they have a cup of tea, they do a lot of talking, sharing the thing. But our community don't have that kind of platform where we go and see, and that's one of the big challenging.
I've noticed that around your house you're growing a lot of vegetables. I've noticed that I've been to other Bhutanese houses. The same thing. It seems to be an important thing to do here for...
Yes, it is. It is. And
what are you growing? Maybe you could explain. What are you growing here?
At the moment, we got vegetables. Okay, it's a seasonal vegetables. We love to grow our own vegetables and eat organic food from our garden, then going and buying food from supermarkets. Because one thing, this kind of vegetables we can't get in the supermarkets. We need to go to either Indian grocery or Asian grocery to get these kind of vegetables. And the vegetables, it comes in the grocery, comes from mainland, so it's not the fresh. Okay, It's been already 3-4 days. Take time to get here, and we wouldn't get the fresh one. And we grow a lot of vegetables in our garden. We eat the fresh one. And that's how we used to do back in Bhutan. That's why we'd like to keep what we were doing. That's also part of keeping our cultures alive.
This is also a thing I've noticed that's similar with the Greek community, because if you go to any, especially older people, always they have a garden. They're growing vegetables, always tomatoes and silver beets.
We go with tomatoes, potatoes, beans, pumpkins, corianders, spinach. Even we got some corns, maize. Okay, we like to grow those.
Do I see some chilies as well?
Yeah, hot chilies at the front. I think you can see some there. I think you see on the floor. Yeah, we're drying that one.
And is the Tasmanian climate, is it similar enough?
It's similar, as I said, to some extent. It is similar. Okay, and when you're saying, I'd like to add, this year I'm doing one Tasmanian Leaders Programs, okay, TLP 18 I'm doing, and part of the program is we're doing a community project, and our community project is collecting information of different vegetables grown in the Bhutanese Nepalese community and what they grow and what sort of vegetables that one's, giving a little bit of information, what climates is suitable to grow those vegetables in Tasmania, what sort of seeds, where they can find seed. We're trying to get all that information in a small booklets and provide. That's our project that we're doing. So we do, the part of the program that I'm doing is we're doing this project.